suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
The law rolls on and our need for it nonetheless. And that's why we have David Whiting for you to dispense some free legal advice this morning. David, good morning.
Good morning, Virginia.
Did we have any homework from last week?
We did. We had a fascinating question from Ad Foucault, who was ringing on behalf of a friend.
That's right.
And what happened was the friend had lent her brother-in-law some money, and the money had been repaid with funds drawn on a company account. The company has since gone into liquidation, and Ad Foucault's friend has been asked to give the money back. Truly fascinating question, and we didn't get enough information from Ad Foucault. So there's a concept of law called avoidable preference, and if you receive money from a company in the 6 months prior to its being placed in liquidation, that is not a payment in the ordinary course of business, so you hustle for it or whatever, then the liquidator can ask you to repay the money. The complicating factor here, and at first blush, the money then gets repayable. The complicating factors are it really depends upon how the company processed the payment. Was it a payment drawn on the loan account of the brother-in-law and used to repay the brother-in-law's debt? In which case it probably isn't avoidable preference. There's also the defence of mistake. So I received it by mistake, but as having received it, I moved to my detriment, and therefore I shouldn't have to repay. So for Ad Foucault's friend, there are a series of defences available to him or her. You just need to know a little bit more about it, but you do certainly have the ability to negotiate with the liquidator.
Okay. Well, Foucault, we urged that Foucault to listen this week and to hear that. Do you want to call back? A bit more information. Is that what you're after there, David? Yeah,
if that Foucault could call back, I couldn't give her a conclusive answer without an extraordinary amount of detail that would have taken at least half an hour.
We don't want to do that.
Perhaps she doesn't. Yep.
No, okay, that's fine. That might do. But if there's a further need, maybe we can take that call off air, or that can be passed on to the producer. We're happy to take your calls, though. Any news out there that I need to be aware of? I'm hearing word of a heck of a backlog in the courts at the moment because of the pandemic. David Whiting, what are you aware of?
The last I heard was that VCAT, as at the 30th of June, had exactly the same backlog of about 8,000 cases that it had the year before.
Okay.
So when you consider it's a state of 6 million people, that was considered to be pretty good in all of the circumstances. Yes, the courts are slowing down. What's fascinating is the number of cases that are now being decided on the papers. So from a lawyer's point of view, that means that you make written submissions rather than rely upon your oratory skills. So yes, the queues are getting longer, and some of the judges are doing exceptional work in turning the documents around really quickly. But there are some cases that need to be the cross-examination of witnesses, for example, can't be done on the papers.
Well, yeah, but interesting to hear that it's being done that way. Do you suspect that there are unsafe judgments and decisions being made because of that process?
No, I don't think so, but I would have said that there have been more changes made in relation to the administration of justice in the last 6 months than there were in the 20 years before. And they're all designed to make it quicker and get through things faster. I suppose where you miss it, or what you think you miss, is the inability to question a proposition. So quite often when you are listening to a court case, you will see that there is a debate between the judge and the barrister where the propositions are tested. There is now no testing of propositions if they're done on the papers. It's only if if people are standing up and speaking that you get the opportunity to engage. Yeah. It's the difference, if you like, between I'd much rather have a conversation than write letters. because you get to the nub of the issue a lot faster.
Of course. Let's answer your calls, 1300 222 774. And first of all is Susan in Baldwin. Good morning, Susan. What's the issue?
Oh, good morning, Virginia. Thank you for taking my call. David, I have a small home in Sorrento, which after having retired this year, I had hoped to sell for this summer. The tenant is now telling me that she is severely immunocompromised and will not allow anyone to enter the home, where in January and February, when we didn't have this lockdown, we had many repairers going into the property. Do I have any... I realize I can't evict her. I don't have that desire, but anything that I can do in relation to this matter?
Are they necessary repairs or desirable repairs, Susan?
At the beginning of the year, there were necessary repairs, window broken down, the door not shutting properly, and a few other things that she had done at the beginning of the year. Now she won't let her sales rep to go in to measure the home out just for us to prepare boards and things for December, January sale.
Yeah, everybody's terrified of the COVID-19 and allowing people in. The proposition under the regulation, Susan, is that you can't enter somebody's property unless it is urgent and essential.
And is a sale urgent and essential, David?
I wouldn't have thought so. Not in a sale in December. I wouldn't have thought that entry in October would be urgent and essential.
But later on it might be, you mean?
Later on it might be. The part would be, are you going to rent it in December and January, Susan, or put it on the market for sale?
I was happy for her to continue staying till I sold the property in January was my intent. So really, we just need to get in just to measure the rooms. And, the salesperson needs to put boards up in November, December.
Yeah, my view would be at the moment it's not urgent and essential, and you'll need to see what the Premier does this Sunday and then what happens in a couple of weeks after that.
So it might be a matter of holding fire on this one, Susan.
Yeah. Today it's not urgent and essential.
Come back to us a bit closer maybe if you've still got those queries. Good luck.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
nice to hear from you. John's in Kilsyth. What's happening, John?
Hello, I'm just ringing about my father's will. My father passed away recently.
I'm sorry to hear.
Thank you. And about 2 years ago, he had a will drawn up, his first ever, and he has 3 sons, myself included. And we were taken to a lawyer's and made power of attorney and given other legal documents to sign and give back, which I assume was a will. My dad has since sold his house because his wife passed away, and he purchased another. And I believe now he's made a fresh will and included, shall I say, one favourite son, his name as a proprietor on the title of his new house, and given all his vehicles and everything just to that one favourite son, and excluded the other 2. I was just wondering, how I may look into that and where we may stand.
Is your dad still alive? No, he's gone.
Recent, yeah.
Okay. What your dad has done is made his estate smaller.
Yeah, I figured that.
So if he added the favourite son to the title, and they were joint proprietors, now your dad has died. That favourite son is now the sole proprietor.
Sure.
So all of the value of the house has gone.
Oh, okay.
If the estate was worth $2 million and the house was worth $1 million, the estate's now worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And your claims are limited to the estate.
Okay, yeah, I figured that.
All right, now, if you're trying to work out how much of the estate you might be entitled to,
sure.
The question is whether or not your father had a moral obligation to provide for you, and if so, whether what he's provided for, in fact, discharges that.
Sure.
And your ability to look after yourself and your position. So there's no requirement at law for arithmetic equality between the children.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right? So you need, so your question is, did he have a moral obligation to me? Did he discharge it by the will? And if he did, there's nothing you can do. And if he did neither of those, so he had a moral obligation and didn't discharge it, your claim is limited to what he left.
With what's left in his estate, yeah, we figured that. Yeah, it's just
Yes.
we make inquiries. I spoke to my brother. It's just because it was done in spite, which is neither here nor there. But that's why I'm talking to you.
So my question would be, what does the brother who got it want to do?
Sure. Oh, he'll just sit as is, I would imagine.
Well, you could ask him. Sometimes people are prepared to reset what Dad's done.
Yeah.
Good
All
luck,
right.
John.
All right. Okay, that explains a lot. I really appreciate it.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thanks
you.
so much for calling in. I've got another John in Carlton. And John, you're bothered by the plane trees. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Yeah, I'm really bothered, and I'm just wondering if I can force the council to clean up or to do something about it. It's just shocking. It's a daily...
What's your problem? What do you want done?
You know those little balls that come off the plane
The
trees?
spines,
And then
yes, yep.
Yes, I'm sure you know Carlton has a massive problem. Day in, day out, I'm forever sweeping and cleaning their mess. Now, they've gone and planted more trees outside my property. I don't know who's making the idiotic decisions over there, but can I force them to clean up? Can I do something about it?
So is
No.
it just to sweep up the pollen? Is that the fluff balls?
It's everywhere. It's affecting my wife. She has asthma and it's just causing her a lot of problems.
Okay.
Yes, because what happens, you can't even have the doors open.
Yeah, no,
and the fly
we know it very well. David, what can happen here?
John, I have you have my sympathy. I've got an office in the city, and there are plane trees right through the city. For about 2 months of the year, I get a sore throat every time I go to work. It's
And
the
there's
irritation from the pollen, and there
Yeah.
is nothing you can do about it. No.
Oh, God, I can poison all the trees, though, couldn't I?
So, no, please don't do that.
No,
Otherwise
please don't
someone
do
will
that.
have to visit you somewhere,
Yes.
right? So, John, you might have a discussion to the council about whether or not plane trees are appropriate street trees, particularly when we're looking at more indigenous plants. But
Well-
but your prospect of succeeding for them to clean up the trees I wouldn't even waste your time or money.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
the funny thing is you were saying about the prospect of scattering the trees, different types. They have planted different types, and the other types are great, and they don't have that problem. So why can't they just do that in all of them?
Because the policy is a mix of trees, and also
Yes.
the plane trees provide shade that a lot of the other native ones don't. John, David, I'm so sorry, but neither of you have
All
my
right.
sympathy. I'm a big fan of the plane trees.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Come live where I am.
Well, I actually live near where you are, and I've got plane trees out the front of my house, and I know the pollen drives you crazy, David, but I think they're marvellous, shady street trees that in a really hot city and increasing climate actually do their job well. Don't you agree, David?
I agree that trees are fantastic, but rather not those ones. Although at one stage I had an office that was on the second floor,
Yeah.
and you looked out into the canopy.
Beautiful.
So absolutely stunning.
Absolutely lovely. I mean, they're treehouse trees. And because they grow to 4 or 5 stories or 4 or 5 floors, and because the Victorian architecture is usually 3 or 4 stories, you get that wonderful effect of looking out through the treehouse. So, sorry everyone, I know there's strong views on that one. Andrew is in Ringwood. What's happening in your world, Andrew?
Hi, how you going?
Hi.
Now I've got a retail license dispute with a shopping centre that I'm in.
Sorry, but, your line's very fuzzy. With a shopping centre, you
okay.
said? Speak
Yeah,
nice
it's a
and clearly
shopping-
for us. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, it is a shopping centre.
Mhm.
So what happened was, long story short, we went to VCAT and we got an injunction in place so they couldn't kick me out because we had a new licence drafted up. Now what's happened is they've used another clause to get me out. So it's 4 weeks notice. They got to give me 4 weeks notice and I've got to get out pretty much.
Yes.
So does an injunction stop anything else? I mean, why did I get an injunction if that was going to happen?
Well, what were they proposing? You got an injunction to stop them doing something in particular.
Yeah,
Right.
as in they're from kicking me out.
So you've got one of those stands in the middle of the passageways in a shopping centre.
No, I've got an actual shop, like a casual pop-up shop. It's an actual shop.
Yes.
It's not in the middle. Yeah.
Okay, but because it's a tenancy for a period of less than 12 months, the Retail Leases Act won't apply to you.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
But what does an injunction do then?
Well, it really depends upon what the wording in the injunction is. The injunction is to stop them doing something.
Yeah.
Now, if it is terminating your right of occupancy, well, again, it really depends on what the words are, Andrew. You're going to need to get someone to look at the words in your claim and in the order made at VCAT.
Yeah. I mean,
And it may well be that you go back to VCAT and get your injunction varied. I don't know.
Yeah, because I did speak to VCAT and I said we need some clarification because I had a solicitor and she what she got out of the hearing was that they can't do anything to me until our next hearing date, which is the 17th of December. But the next day they served me with a 4-week notice to leave.
Then, Andrew, you go back to the lawyer you've got acting for you and ask that person to confirm the advice.
Yeah, and she still doesn't, and I did, and she still doesn't understand how that could happen.
Well, then you would go back to VCAT and come along and say, this looks like contempt of VCAT. I've obtained an order for a particular outcome, and what they're doing is, what you're saying, is they're rejecting the effect and terms of the order. So you want to get the injunction varied or extended, or you want them dealt with for contempt.
Okay, Andrew?
Okay, thank you.
Good on you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks so much. Lucille has called in from Baldwin with what sounds like a very difficult situation. Hi, Lucille.
Yes, good morning, Virginia and David. I have power of attorney with my brother to look after my mother. It's financial power of attorney. She's 87 and it hasn't been, I'm not sure of the word transferred or invoked yet. And she's at risk of financial abuse. She's already been leaned on, if you like, by a grandchild. At this point in time, she maintains all her affairs, but we're just a little bit concerned and wondering what you might advise.
So what do you mean by transferred? So what you're saying is that you haven't yet stepped up as attorneys because your mum is capable of managing her own affairs.
Correct, but with declining cognition, yes.
Right. Well, she doesn't have the power to act once she loses decision-making capacity. So if you are of the view that she has lost decision-making capacity, then any transactions that she enters into could be set aside by you. So maybe that's what you say to the grandchild.
Right.
All right.
Sorry, she was due to see a gerontologist on Friday, but she cancelled it because she didn't think she needed to.
Yeah, lots of people who reach that point don't think they need any assistance at all, because most of us don't see the gradual decline in ourselves.
Yes.
So that would be the approach I would take. If you haven't got, your other option is to go to VCAT effectively for an order that says she doesn't have decision-making capacity.
Right. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but that's the next logical step, yeah?
Great.
So I think you would be, Lucille, my approach would be to put pressure on the grandchild.
Yes.
And say that your grandmother doesn't have decision-making capacity. We're going to set aside the transaction and see where you go from there.
Okay. Good luck there, Lucille. Thanks for calling in. It's a day of Johns today. I've got many of them on the phone lines. This is John in Geelong. What's happening, John? Good morning.
Sorry, Virginia. It's Johno.
Oh, Jono.
No, John. That's okay.
Oh, all right.
David, how are you? We had we put our house on the market going back probably 2 years ago, and the house was on the market for a good period of time, and then we withdrew it from sale. However, all the pictures of the internal, every part of the house are still online. Is there any way we can get those pictures down?
Jono, what I want you to do is have a look at your listing authority.
Yep.
And turn it over and read the conditions on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of interesting possible scenarios. The first one is that you don't own the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second is that even if you do own the pictures, you allow them to be used to promote the agency. So I would sell for clients 3 or 4 properties a year. I turn them over, and there's a whole series of lines that I cross out, including the one that allows them to use my details for marketing purposes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And allows them to use the photos for marketing purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So have a look at your authority to sell and see who has the rights in the photos.
I was told by the agent. I made an inquiry to the selling agent, and they said no, that shouldn't have happened. We'll get in contact with Domain and realestate.com, and we'll get them to take them down. But
You may find that you've given away those rights, Jono.
Okay, no, that's okay. No, it's just frustrating. That's all. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have the same sort of result, and it's it's wide open for all sorts of things.
Yeah, and you've got to really, really carefully check the details. Good to hear from you. Thanks so much for calling in. Chris is in North Balwyn. Hello, Chris.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hello.
Go ahead.
I purchased a new Volkswagen Passat wagon from a dealer in...
we probably don't need to go into all the details, but go on.
Okay. But the thing about the purchasing the wagon was it was my third Passat wagon. And when I purchased the wagon, subsequently when it was delivered, discovered that there were standard features that had been on those wagons for nearly 7 years, things like an automatic tailgate, personalisation, voice activation, features that you could not identify either from the Volkswagen publicity or from the specifications that were available, which were very limited. And it was a situation where we've purchased a vehicle which we now believe is completely substandard, and we've been trying to say to the dealer, well, how about compensating us for the features that we thought we were purchasing, and we're basically hitting deaf ears.
Yeah, I can understand the deaf ears, Chris. Is it exactly the same model?
No, it's the newer model. This is my third Passat wagon, and I actually expected the third one would be better than the previous one, but in fact it's an inferior vehicle.
Sorry to jump in. I'm just going to let's not keep repeating the brand name. We've got it once, that'll do. Thanks.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I think, Chris, I have all the sympathy in the world, but I have never yet seen a car ad that says, these are the things we took out of the last model. Right? So,
but isn't there a requirement under Australian consumer law for full disclosure?
Well, you bought a new model car by description.
Mm-hmm.
They have met the description of the vehicle they have for sale that meets that specification. That, to me, is the problem.
Even though this is a vehicle that for 7 years had an automatic tailgate, for example.
No, it's not the same vehicle, Chris. My view is that over 7 years you will have bought 3 different model Passats.
Correct.
And the specifications for the vehicles over the 7 years will not have been identical in each instance.
Yes, but every other previous time I've purchased, the features that I have purchased have been spelt out clearly. They have not been spelt out clearly for this new model. I believe it was...
No, I think that's not right, Chris. What hasn't been spelt out clearly is the fact that they're no longer in the vehicle. Mm. So they may well have been spelt out as a feature of vehicles 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. They do not appear as a feature of vehicle number 3.
Okay,
so that's it then?
Okay, sorry, Chris.
Yeah, Chris, really sorry about that. Must be very disappointing, I get that. Hey, great to hear from everyone this morning, and I hope we could help. David, good to talk to you. You've got a free week, I think. We'll see you next Tuesday.
I might sleep in tomorrow. Thank you.
Sleep in and get out there and enjoy life underneath the plane trees, won't you?
No, thank you.
David Whiting there, who's your talkback lawyer.